I mean, y'all ain't gonna believe this. This is crazy, man. Who would have thought? AWS couldn't do it. All these other companies couldn't do it. Apache Iceberg everywhere. Come use our sort of open source Iceberg, sort of not open source Iceberg. I don't know. One of the biggest annoyances with Apache Iceberg is trying to use a flipping catalog that works. You know what your two options are? Your options are, oh, I'm going to run this on my laptop, and I guess I'm just going to use SQLite, locally, and that's my catalog. Well, that doesn't do anyone any good. That's not a production use case, okay? It doesn't work in the cloud, or at least I haven't seen anyone try to do it, and whatever. Or, hey, go install, I don't know, Lakekeeper, all this other crap that's like, hey, just spin up some servers, and install this crap, and now you have a catalog. Who wants to do that to use a flipping lakehouse format? I have to run something on a server and manage it? What the crap? I don't know. That just drove me crazy about Iceberg. As all the production use cases, just you need an easy to use catalog. You can't be using flipping SQLite. It's just a big barrier to Iceberg, always has been, and today someone solved it. Finally, I can't believe it. You got all these companies that want to use this open source Apache Iceberg format for their own good, I guess, right? They want to laud it. They want to say it's best. We support it, all this crap, but nobody wants to actually make Iceberg work in the open source for real until some dude comes along and says, well, I guess I'll just have to fix it. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, honestly, this is the only beam of light in a dark tunnel of despair of Apache Iceberg in production since Cloudflare's wonderful R2 data catalog, which has basically been ignored by everyone for some reason. And God bless that Julian, man. You guys got to go check him out on LinkedIn or wherever you can find him, his Substack. But he just released a new boring Apache Iceberg catalog, and by boring, that's the name of it. Okay, it's not boring, it's the name of it. It's called the Boring Catalog, and it is a file-based, cloud-compliant AKS3 Apache Iceberg catalog. Wow, who would have thought they could do it? Apparently, AWS can't do it. Just couldn't be bothered. They can take advantage of Iceberg. That's about it. So thanks to Julian for single-handedly saving the Apache Iceberg data engineering community, because apparently that's what has to happen. Anyways, if we head over to the GitHub, here it is, the Boring Catalog. It is a lightweight file-based Iceberg catalog implementation using a single JSON file. You can use it on local disk, on S3, or any FS-spec compatible storage. Awesome. Where has this been for the last 3 years? I'm not, Julian's the best, but everyone else, what the crap, man? I'm sure some of you unbelievers and little whiners who's never actually tried Apache Iceberg in a cloud-like production environment will say the very simpering, but we've had SQLite catalogs for Iceberg forever. We have a REST catalog, You know what? I've tried setting up and using some of the biggest and best REST catalogs, and it's like, number one, they didn't work. Go read my crap, and you go try it. Number two, I don't want to flipping run in a server just to host a catalog so I can write to Iceberg. Give me a break. Apache Iceberg catalogs are in desperate need of easy-to-use implementations, and implementations that don't need Google scale or a server to run, and that they work in the cloud. That's what we need. What we needed was a first step that is a viable catalog that works in the cloud without major setup, which can support 80% of the use cases for small to medium-sized data teams that want to use Iceberg. Most people aren't crunching petabytes of data with thousands of workers, and they need some high-performance Apache Iceberg catalog. It's not most people, okay? That's just the reality. So what I did is I kicked the tires on Boring Catalog. I was like, is this too good to be? There's no way. AWS couldn't do it. Nobody else can do it that's taking advantage of Iceberg. How could this one dude just do this? Is it possible? Can this actually work? That's what I wanted to find out. Spoiler, it does work. So basically, I'm going to go through this really quick and easy. You could do this using UV init Boring Iceberg, UV add PyIceberg, DuckDB polars, Boring Catalog. Let's go, man. Create the virtual environment. Oh, I ran into a problem. The first one was, hey, you got to have an earlier version of Python. 3.9 is too old, so I upgraded to Python 3.11. By the way, the author of this, I sent this stuff I did over to this guy, and he fixed this already. What an amazing dude. Anyways, you got to use at least 3.10. It sounds like you fixed that up. Whatever. UV init boring iceberg Python 3.11. Go ahead and UV add iceberg duckdb polars boring catalog. Pretty much like any other catalog, iceberg catalog, and any other catalog for that matter. In our case, we need to set up a warehouse for that iceberg catalog, and we want it located somewhere in S3. So I went ahead and in my UV environment, I went and activated that environment and said, once you pip install boring catalog, by the way, you get a command line tool called ice. Ice init -p warehouse equals, and I just put in Confessions of a Data Guy, bing bong, ding dong. That's where I want my catalog at, or that's where I want my warehouse at. Go to town. Okay, had a little bit of an error, access denied. I figured this might happen. I got multiple profiles, and of course this tool, if I said ice help, it didn't really give me the chance to say, hey, use this profile. But I figured, hey, if I export my AWS keys and stuff like into the environment, I bet I could do it, which I did. I exported my keys, you can see there. Went ahead and ice init, that same thing, Confessions of a Data Guy, bing bong ding dong, and look at that, initialize the catalog at that location. Here's the catalog location, here's the warehouse location, catalog name. Wow, easy. It actually worked, man. That's good stuff. But if it's working, we should be able to write some Python now and see what happens. Can we create a table in S3 using this super simple iceberg catalog? That's a file in S3. Dear Lord. Here we go. We'll use polars from boring catalog import boring catalog. Export my keys. Catalog equals boring catalog name. Bing bong ding dong. Here's the URL. Point it right there, baby. Right at that JSON file. Let's go ahead and read our Divi bike trip dataset with polars. Polars read CSV to arrow. Give us that dirty old arrow data frame. Catalog, create namespace, pickles, because why not? Everybody loves pickles. Catalog, create table, pickles, trip data, schema. Here's the data.schema from our PyArrow table. Catalog. So we created the table, catalog, load table, pickles, trip data. Dear Lord, that was so easy and it worked. It almost reminds me of Delta Lake. Okay, I lied. It did break the very first time I ran that exact code. It said, hey, I don't know where the location is for this table, which I thought was strange. It's a brand new thing, whatever. Went and looked at the docs. Hey, the table location is optional in the source code. Like, I can get past this. I can pass the location, brother. I know all about it. So either way, I just went back to that code, said catalog, create table, identifier, pickles, trip data, schema, location, and just gave it the location of my warehouse and just said, hey, write the tables there. But now we want to see if this really works with something else. Does it work with polars? Polars supports writing to Iceberg from a data frame, so we should be able to do this with this catalog. Here's the code. It's amazing. Again, imports, keys for AWS, catalog. We load that catalog again like there's no tomorrow. We take polars. We read that CSV. We take the table, the catalog, say .load table, pickles, data trip, and then we say data, which is our data from polars. Write Iceberg, pass it the table from the catalog, and mode append. Holy crap, it's like we're using Delta Lake or something. Here's the code that I wrote to read it back to prove that it works. Super simple with that catalog. Man, boring catalog is the best. Print the table, load the table, print the table, scan to arrow. Dude, look at that. It flipping worked. That is unbelievable. I have to take a minute here, though. What in the world is going on? Riddle me this. Why is it that it took a lone data engineer wandering in this broken data landscape this far into the Apache Iceberg being around, which has been forever? People have been lauding it forever. How did it take one dude to write a simple-to-use cloud-compliant catalog that actually works? And maybe it's just because I've spent too much time trying to make all these other tables work that don't. Maybe it's me seeing all these major companies like AWS and S3 tables, all these other places saying, hey, we're Iceberg compliant, we use it, blah, 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 in our own little way, our secret way, use our tool. They all just want to abuse the open source Apache Iceberg. Nobody wants to actually step up like Julian and actually write something that is actually awesome and will work. I don't know how long it took him, but it's just ridiculous that it took this long for somebody to do this. Because honestly, this has been, whether people like it or not, this has been a big barrier and an Achilles heels of Apache Iceberg. I mean, this is a realistic cloud-enabled Iceberg catalog that you could use truly in an open source and production environment. I just did it with a few lines of code. I mean, it's so predictable that all the talking heads and companies that want to take advantage of Iceberg wouldn't do this and not put developers first. And yet it took someone just out of nowhere, finally, after all this years, to provide a real simple, workable catalog option that works in open source in the cloud. I don't know. Now, Apache Iceberg community at large needs to take a note from the page of Databricks and Delta Lake, like it or not. They have put open source usability and developer first when it comes to Delta Lake. It has first class support for a reason. It shows in the usage and in their product. Man, I highly suggest you guys send a thank you note to Julian. Go find him, follow him on LinkedIn, check out his Substack. It's here. I'll put a link in it, the Jew Data Engineering Newsletter. Man, this guy deserves your thanks for basically carrying Apache Iceberg on his shoulders.